All right, let's go live. Okay, we are live. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday Night Livestream. We're not fully started, I know, but we are here, which counts for something, right? So welcome, King J, Shade Loft, Vanitas, and whoever else decides to show up. One person watching, you say? Not sending boobs over YouTube's not happening. Sad music, dramatic track. Yes. I think we remember last time when we got to this dramatic moment of, oh wait, there's a place you can bathe? But judging from the monologuing dialogue here, that may not be our intention right away. So how's everyone's day going? I'm hoping that I will be able to last the entirety of the live stream tonight. I'm probably not gonna go extra. Hey, how's it going, Metal? Welcome. Probably not gonna go extra. Probably keep it at around the 2-hour mark tonight because throat feels eh. Good is good. Good is good. Yeah, luckily, well, yeah, I should be fine, because I know, the Fruit of Grisaia is not a, intense game. It's, it's not like, it's not going to require me to, like, go super crazy on voice acting or anything, so, should be fine. And, it's actually more of a safety precaution that, I was feeling meh. I have a meeting I have to go to tomorrow morning, early in the morning, so I want to be 100% for it. So I took a safety day off tonight, or today from work. Phineas is looking forward to a bath scene. We'll see. We'll see about that. But guess what, guys? It is 7 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Monday Night Livestream with your host, animefanrk2k here. And I say your host, but I'm the one that's playing the game. And tonight's game, as it was last week, Fruit of Grisaia, doing Amane's route. So if you're showing up for the first time for today, a lot of stuff has gone down since. So I will kindly ask that you can stick around for the chat and the conversations, but might be a little lost in the storyline. With that said, got my lemonade, a little vitamin C extra for my throat. Have the game going. So let's get right into it, right? Bats sounded fantastic, but we had other priorities. While picking the mugwort and chameleon plants we planned to use for medical purposes, Kazuki and I took the opportunity to search for vegetation that looked edible. It was the third day of our imprisonment in this ravine. Perhaps in the very beginning we'd assumed the vibrant mass of nature that trapped us here would also provide us with a steady supply of wild vegetables. That optimism evaporated the moment we actually began to explore the jungle. Not too intense, yes, but we are talking about bus accident with children dying. It's true. Carefully surveying the woods turned up something in the way of edible-looking vegetation. The vast majority were fern sprouts, honeywort, chrysanthemum greens, and other leafy plants. More garnished than main course. None of them could fill the bellies of a group of growing teenagers. As an added bonus, pretty much all of these wild grasses and flowers proved strongly unpalatable. Eaten raw, they were unbelievably bitter, and most gave off a sharp, nasty scent, even when boiled. The harsh, caustic taste of lye usually remained. Seasoning to disguise the flavor was an absolute necessity. The first of our supplies to vanish was the curry powder. Thanks to its strong smell and powerful taste, it violently drowned out the taste of any individual ingredient. It was our magic pixie dust, transforming anything into a tolerable meal. Oh man. Metal, these jokes. On the day of the fall, we'd each been distributed 2 tiny single-serving packets of curry powder to last us 3 days. Even combining my share of Kazuki's, our 4 packets didn't amount to much at all. Although Kazuki had entrusted me with all of our precious supply of food, she got downright angry when I tried to make curry croquettes using the powder and some potatoes. She was always strictly lecturing me about keeping our portions as small as possible. Any ingredient containing anything in the way of salt was a particular obsession. Her argument: sodium can't be produced inside the human body. Therefore, ingesting it from the outside is absolutely necessary. Hello, Alavar. Welcome, welcome.
確か植物からミネラルを取り出して塩を作る実験をしている中国の大学教授がいたわよね。
That probably has a extraction process, though.
何急にそんないきなりいたわよねとか同意を求められても知らないの。
Alright, see you, Alavar.
児童向けの科学雑誌にそんな記事が出ていたのを今ふと思い出したのだけれど、残念なことに大量の素材とそれなりの規模の装置が必要なのよね。
Yep.
塩がそんなに大切なの？
Salt's very important, guys. Yep. That Metal, you did say that.
今はまだ体内での調整でごまかしが効いているけど、このまま数日経って飢餓が極まった時、最後に必要になるのは塩だと思うのよ。だから今のうちにできるだけ確保しておきたいの。
Let's get back to flashback bus crash the anime.
一応言われた通りに塩は節約してるし、半分は使わないようにして隠してあるけど、それは最後まで隠しておいて。それと塩を隠し持っていることも誰にも言わないで。分かった。そうするけど。
Looks like Kazuki is expecting a worst case scenario, and judging from the fact that we know that Amane is going to be the only survivor, it's going to be a worst case scenario. So yeah, I'm starting to see why Amane survived this. What's the point of having salt if there's no food to put it on? If anything, seemed like we would be stockpiling stuff that could fill our stomachs, not a condiment. Since the fall, we've been getting by on potatoes, carrots, and the weedy vegetation we picked from the forest. Without any meat or rice in our diet, we're starved for protein and carbohydrates alike. If we had to make a meal out of these scraggly, bitter plants, I'd at least have liked to stir-fry them with a little crumbled bacon, flavored with a generous helping of butter and soy sauce, and steaming white rice on the side. That's right, rice. We still had a supply of that being held in reserve, didn't we? On the second day of our training camp, heavy rain had canceled our plans to cook a big curry dinner outdoors. We've been eating many of the ingredients from that meal, not the rice it would have been served on. In other words, we had a 5-kilogram sack of perfectly good rice sitting in a tent somewhere. Just when were they planning to distribute that? There was no point in whining about bacon when we didn't have any, but I wanted some rice pretty badly. A nice fluffy bowl on the side would make a main dish of fried weeds seem a lot more tolerable. If we had some shimeji mushrooms thrown in, it'd be...
Kinoko.
Kinoko? Mushroom?
はい。ねえ、カズキ、キノコは？キノコなら山の中でも生えてるんじゃない？キノコを探そうよ。
Soul hair is good?
やめておいた方がいいわ。キノコは危険よ。
Yeah, I mean, you just have to choose the correct ones.
どうして？カズキなら毒キノコと食べられるキノコ見分けがつくんじゃない？一応知識はあるけれど、キノコは地域によって差もあるし、それに 私の知識は本で得たものばかりで経験が伴わない。
Only cool or hot ones? Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
本で得た知識だけでキノコを食べて食中毒になるケースは今の時代になっても後を絶たないわ。キノコはダメ。私、軸がきれいに縦に裂けるキノコは食べても平気って聞いたことあるよ。それは俗説よ。軸が縦に裂けるキノコでも致命的な毒を持つ種類はたくさんあるわ。悪いことは言わないからキノコは諦めなさい。
Tom is here, Tom is gone. I mean, you know, guys, for him it's midnight, so it's understandable. There are people who need sleep, and people who need to drop eggplants and leave.
いいアイデアだと思ったんだけどな。
Alright, Tom, see you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I got to 200, one way or another.
誰か嫌な子に食べさせて2、3日様子を見てからみんなで食べるという手もあるけれど。
Yeah, I'm like hanging out at that 200 mark, so I like to stay there, which should be nice.
さすがにその冗談は笑えないよ。
Just like the mushrooms are, Amane.
冗談を言った覚えはないわよ。
Thanks, thank you. Although she smiled lightly, Kazuki's voice wasn't amused in the slightest. She was quite seriously and neutrally informing me of a potential exchange. If we wanted edible mushrooms, we would have to sacrifice someone first. At the moment, we had edible plants, unappetizing as they might be. There was no need to risk death for the sake of a few mushrooms. But if we were to eat up all of the shoots and flowers and herbs, where was our next meal going to come from? If we're forced to eat mushrooms, who takes the first bite? Road to survival we couldn't follow yet, a road not all of us could travel. Oh, you have to leave town, Tom? I mean, I agree. In like 2 weeks or so, I won't be able to make it for the Sunday live stream too, because I'm gonna be out of town. Use cat dance guinea pig. Come on, human sacrifices are. Let's try not to, is what I like to say, but we know how it's gonna end. Was Kazuki thinking of something like this when she spoke those words? Yesterday morning, had she already predicted that I would suggest gathering mushrooms? All of a sudden, her steady voice seemed strangely cold. I suppressed the urge to shiver.
誰だって死にたくはないでしょ。ほら、さっさと積んで戻りましょうよ。
With those words, Kazuki bent down and began to put away the plants we had gathered in the mess kit rice cooker we were using as makeshift buckets. I was like, I'm not so sure about this trip. That looks like lice shade. None of us want to die. Those brief, perfectly obvious words sent a cold shock through my body. None of us were hiding our grief or anxiety particularly well anymore. Everyone was nervous. Everyone was scared. I realized something from the spasm of terror I felt in that moment. Somewhere deep inside, we were probably still in denial. We were still optimistically averting our eyes from the cruel reality. The fourth day in the valley. Oh snap, guys. Looks like I actually got through a good chunk of day 3. Here we are on day 4. Fourth day of the valley. As expected, another hot one. As early as mid-morning, it felt about 90 degrees out, if not worse. Spending time in the lush, humid jungle under such conditions would drain our energy surprisingly quickly. So we were told to limit our investigations of the areas to the early hours of the day before the temperature reaches peak. Guys, the Stoffel plushie will still get to you. Investigating the area might sound nice, but to be perfectly honest, we were just foraging for food. Everyone had long since burned through the 3 days worth of food distributed to us on the first night. From today on, the system was changing. We'd be getting our daily rations from the captain every morning. That morning she handed me a handful of rice, less than a cup's worth. That and maybe a quarter of an onion. This was to make do for me and Kazuki both. When I tentatively asked if this was supposed to be for one meal, she firmly repeated, "This is for the day." It wouldn't have been enough for anyone, let alone young girls with growing bodies. We were expected to make up the shortfall by heading into the forest and procuring our own. As a result, most of us were forced to devote the majority of our active time to searching the woods for food. Fortunately, my partner Kazumi Kazuki had as small an appetite as her diminutive frame would suggest. Even when all I could offer was a thin gruel of rice and mountain wheats, she ate steadily away without a single complaint. If anything, the problem lay in my direction. Guys, no bad mouthing people in the chat, okay?
ダメだ。全然食べ足りないよ。アマネは体が大きいから基礎代謝が高い分、動かなくてもエネルギーを消費するものね。
Everyone's gonna wail during the summer, Vanitas. Drinking time. Kazuki glanced over as I sucked regretfully on my gruel-soaked chopsticks, gave a little laugh, and helpfully compared me to an American gas guzzler in human form.
私の食べ残しで悪いけど、食べる？それはカズキの分だよ。
You mean MP5 Temmie? Oi, I'm Temmie! I'm not gonna strain my voice any further than that, guys. That's fair, Vanitas. You actually have the tools to stay free to play right now. I mean, Tom does too, so I don't know why he's... But, you know. Realistically, all of us who wail, we wail because of greed. So, yeah. It's honestly all too eager to gobble down any morsel offered to me, leftovers or not. Even so, it would have been a dire mistake to accept Kazuki's kindness. If our pair was a body, I was the hands and feet, while Kazuki was the head. No matter how healthy the limbs may be, they can't move unless the brain's functioning.
いいよ。あとはお茶でも飲んで我慢する。
And that's fair. Of course, our tea was nothing more than hot water flavored with onion skins. It wouldn't fill my stomach, to be sure, but from what Kazuki had told me, the skins were rich in antioxidants that would reduce the stress on my body, providing something of a detox effect. Oh yeah, yeah, in a pinch, onion skin tea isn't terrible. I mean, like, it is terrible, like, if you don't like onions, like I don't. But for survival purposes, not bad. Whatever floats your goat. My goat floats with a life preserver, thank you very much. King, but here's the thing, you can actually play mobile games for free, some of these. That's what the gacha games get you, because you feel like you have to pay to win. But if you have good luck, or if you have the patience to reroll, 9 times out of 10, you roll on a good banner and you're set for the game. This game's entire lifespan. You know, Vanitas, like, rates are gonna be different. But here's the difference between that. Fate Go, you can free to play the entirety of the game with little to no trouble, as long as you get those few 3 stars that you need to really get going with it. So it's not a game that requires 4 or 5 star units. Like, there are other games that require 4 or 5 star units to even progress, like the premium units to progress through. And on top of that, Fate Go has events that give you event servants that are some of the best servants in the game. Yeah, that's what it is, Shade. As I say, people like myself, I roll for 5 stars out of greed. I don't need them. There's going to be no point in the game's lifespan to date that will tell me that I do, because I don't. So, there it is. No, I'm not acting like I'm free to play. I 100% am not a free to play player. I've wailed twice already in the game. What I'm saying is that You can play the game free to play without any real hassle or difficulty. I, however, am greedy and want 5 stars. So that's why I got 5 stars. I mean, like, the first few were luck. But there are a few I'm not. Let's see. As I slowly sipped away at the reddish-brown tinted water, I looked around the campsite. Unsurprisingly, many of the others were sitting listlessly on their silver sleeping mats, their arms wrapped around growling stomachs. Clearly, I wasn't the only one longing for something to supplement our inadequate meals. A group of 3 girls had sat themselves down in a tight circle with Sakuma-senpai at their center. They were playing cards with a deck somebody must have brought along, gambling for small snacks and pieces of candy they've been secretly hoarding. It's a common sight lately. Yeah, you can be free to play and just have really good luck. It's true. You can also be paid to play and have terrible luck. It's also true. Like, you know, as I said before, I brag about my my good pulls, but I don't talk about my bad ones. Because I think we all know that during that one Discord while drinking, I pulled for John Alter. I dropped $200 that night, and I got a Mordred. So, I'm telling you guys, man, I only recommend people to stay free to play simply because free to play is guaranteed. Pay to play is not. It's not gambling. I personally don't think gacha is a form of gambling, because gambling requires you to lose money. As in, you put money in, you get nothing out. You will always get something out of it. At least a guaranteed 3-star servant, a guaranteed 4-star craft essence. In the gacha game in Fate Grand Order. So I will say that it's not true gambling. It has consolation prizes and a buffer. Tom? You can say that, you can complain all you want, but I have Okita Soji, which is a 5-star quick servant that is better than Mordred. So yeah, I will say that Mordred is and plus I was rolling on the John Alter banner. Yeah, Mordred's an inferior servant to a top tier 5-star servant. Mordred's a good 5-star saber, but most sabers are good. So I would say I have a better saber class servant. I have a preferred saber class servant at night level 90, and I was trying to roll for a better servant anyway. And yeah, Mordred's cool though. Like there's no doubt. Like down the line, she'll be level 90 on my roster too, even before MP2 or Artillery on my team gets past level 1. So anyway, Kazuki put her hand in her skirt pocket and pulled out a single chocolate bar.
軍資金は私が提供するから、勝ったら分け前は私とあなたで半分ずつ。いい？
So you make Uma jokes?
でも負けた時はそうね、おやつ抜きってのはどう？もともとおやつとかねえよ。っていうかどうして和樹がやらないの？
I bet no one want to play with Kazuki.
私が勝つと面白くないでしょ。それに私は怪我人の世話があるし、今は小出さんが一人で見ているけど、私がいないと不安らしいから。
Uma's good. Don't burn Uma.
こんな時に遊んでていいのかな。
Just remember, guys, Mordred teamed up with Astolfo and Fate Apocrypha. Didn't she? Maybe. I don't know. We'll go watch Fate Apocrypha.
こんな状況だからこそ退屈すると悪い方へ考えが進みやすいし、ガス抜きは必要なのよ。 無駄に動いてもお腹が空くだけだしね。
It's true, Katsuki.
それにたかが遊びだなんて思っていてはダメね。私のペアである以上はあなたには敗北は許されないわ。
Sekai.
たとえトランプ遊びといえど、不退転の心意気を胸に他人を蹴落としてでも利益を得る覚悟で挑んでちょうだい。
Amane like wins all the snacks.
不退転。踏み出したら振り返らない。それがルールよ。よくわかんないけど、頑張ってみるよ。
Tell me Amane is good at gambling.
確実な勝利を期待しているわ。
Yeah, I know. It's you have to make a choice. You have to watch anime or anime or anime or anime. Yeah, it's tough, man. There's anime, or you can watch anime, or you can watch it, or you can watch me. Having said her piece, Kazuki turned on her dainty heel and walked off confidently.
確実な勝利ね。
Setting the bar a little high, aren't we? Well, I guess if you had talent like Kazuki's, it might well turn out that way. But it seemed like a downright unreasonable expectation to place on an ordinary person like myself. Of course, if I had said as much to Kazuki, I'm sure she would have given me another talking to. Victory is secured only through the steady accumulation of effort and unflagging attention to minor precautions, or whatever. I was pretty sure she'd already told me something very similar, in fact. So that's fair. You can pack as you watch me. I'd actually been making something of a habit, jotting down Katsuki's words of advice over the days we'd spend together. Do your utmost to avoid placing yourself in the position where you'll be forced to rely on chance. When the time comes to use a card, play it without hesitation. Betray before you are betrayed. Once someone has betrayed you, never trust them again. Don't let anyone realize you don't trust them. Remember to chew your milk before you swallow. Not that I really understood most of them, especially the last one there. Chew your milk? Some kind of metaphor, maybe? Well, whatever.
私も混ぜてもらっていいですか?
I burned Steno for a rare prism. She's an excellent rare prism, father, guys.
それは構わないけど、何かかけるものを持ってる?
チョコレートがありますけど。
Got a chocolate bar. Time to gamble.
へえ、君、まだそんなものを隠し持ってたのか。
いえ、別に隠していたわけじゃ。それにこれは和樹が持っていたものです。
風見が？あいつ甘いものなんて興味なさそうな顔してるけど、こんなものを持っていたのは意外だね。
Couldn't deny it seemed a little out of character for Kazuki to be carrying chocolate around. But everyone loves chocolate, man. Well, that's not true. A lot of people like chocolate. That said, at this point I wouldn't really have been surprised if she pulled a pigeon out of a hat. She was clearly capable of anything.
何にせよ、チョコレートは大歓迎だ。座りなよ。
はい。
I wonder how good Amane will be. What should we do next? What's going to become of us? How long before we can go home? Immediately after the fall, every word coming out of our mouths boiled down to a variation on one of those three sentences. But as of that morning, the litany of unanswerable questions had finally trickled to a halt. By our fourth day in the valley, we'd started to adapt psychologically. Harsh as our environment was, we had our tents to shield us from the elements and our sleeping bags to keep us warm at night. As we began to find comfort in such things, we were gradually growing calmer. The provisions distributed on the first day gone, our daily rations reduced to a bird's helping of rice, it's only natural that the topic of our conversation shifted from such vague anxieties to the concrete topic of food.
チーズが食べたいな。
While studying the cards she'd been dealt, Kaneda-senpai muttered those words to no one in particular like some kind of prayer. Her love for dairy was well known unto the team. When practice ended and the freshmen took orders for their obligatory snack run to the nearby convenience store, she'd always request something cheesy.
ないものは仕方がないだろ。
分かっちゃいますけど、先輩だって甘いものが食べたいって言ってたじゃないですか。
Time people out for
甘いものは
food.
実際にあるじゃないか。キャンディーにガムにプレッツェル。それに見なよ。アマネがチョコレートを持っている。まさにカモネギじゃないか。
確かにチョコは魅力的ですよね。一番甘いですし。
Good luck winning it. Guys thinking too lightly of Amane right now. 3 sets of eyes focused intensely on my bar of chocolate. Felt almost like they weren't seeing anything else. For a moment I physically cringed. All 3 of them were to pounce at once. I would have been completely unable to defend myself. As I bit my lower lip and swallowed nervously, Sakuma glanced up and abruptly burst into laughter.
心配ないさ。大丈夫だよ。確かにここ最近苦くて渋い草ばっかり食べてるせいで甘いものに飢えているのは間違いないけど、たかがチョコレートで喧嘩を始めるほど私たちも子供ではないからね。
Give it a week.
ですよね。
Like I said, give it a week.
もしこの場に小沢先輩がいたら、それも保証の限りではないですけどね。
As she spoke, Ibuki discarded a pair of cards from her hand. True enough, Ozawa wouldn't have handled the situation well. Her juniors hadn't called her the devourer demon behind her back for nothing. Insensitive as it seems, I couldn't help but think her instant death in the bus crash had at least spared her from otherwise inevitable agony. Perhaps she'd been lucky in a way.
そういえばさ、小沢ちんのバッグどうなったの？
バッグ？
ほらあの子、いつもバッグの中にぎっしりとお菓子を隠してたでしょ。あのバッグがあれば私たちしばらく甘いものに困らないんじゃない？
I like how you say that, Kaneda, but if she is the devourer of sweets, she's probably not gonna have any left.
先輩たちの私物はバスから回収した後、全部先生に預けましたけど。
ということはやっぱり部長が管理してるってことか。
Just then I glanced absentmindedly at the chocolate bar in my hand and did a bit of a double take. Come to think of it, Kazuki was the one who retrieved Ozawa-senpai's belongings from the bus. Could this possibly be something Kazuki secretly swiped from her bag?
どうしたマネ？君の番だよ。
You missed nothing, Vanitas. Just playing games.
はい、ごめんなさい。
Instinctively apologizing for no particular reason, I pulled the furthest card on the right from Sakuma's hand. Chuckled softly, like taking the worst possible card off her hands, the Joker. If it's with you at the very end, you've lost the game. For a moment, the smirking clown staring back at me from the cheap lamenting play card seemed to be wearing Kazuki's face.
結局のところさ、食料を全部管理しているのは部長と小出のペアでしょ。彼女ら自分たちだけお腹いっぱい食べてるなんてことはないよね。
Something tells me the captain is definitely not. From the cards I offered her, Kana pulled out the eight of spades.
それはないと信じたいね。坂下はああ見えて責任感は人一倍強いし、自分だけ楽をしようとは思わないタイプだよ。
そうでしょうか。
Ibuki pulled a card from Kana's hand and discarded a newly formed pair onto the central pile. At this point, she had only 4 cards remaining.
坂下部長は責任感が強いというか、自分以外の場所に責任を転嫁するのが上手なだけですよ。私、あの部長苦手です。
Hungry anime is worse, man.
出たよ。またブッキーの苦手ですだ。君はそうやって何でも嫌ってみるんだね。
As Sakuma-senpai leaned over toward her, Ibuki's cheeks flushed slightly red. She thrust out her remaining 4 cards in front of her roommate's face as if trying to keep her at bay.
そうやって簡単に信じてしまう方が善人なんですか？私は善人なんて嫌です。騙されて利用されて、それでもよかった、病気の子供はいなかったんだなんて言えるほど私は聖人じゃありません。
そういうとこかわいいな、ブッキーは。そろそろ髪切った方がいいね。前髪を切ればもっと可愛くなる。
余計なお世話です。私は好きでこの髪型にして。もう触らないで。
イチャつくのは二人きりの時にしてもらっていいですか？
Alright. Guys, we're trying to play some old maid here. Not this. Wrinkling her brows of trying to hold back an imminent sneeze, Kaneda flapped her hand in the air in a signal to get on with the game already.
うちのペアは小森が飼ってる犬がいるから余計な食いぶちが増える分食料の減りが早いんだよね。あの犬っころ生意気に雑草なんか嫌だって全然食べないし。
Don't worry, that's emergency ration said. Menchi, Excel Saga.
あ、そういえば犬って肉食なんじゃないんですか？
雑食なんじゃないかな。うちの近所の犬なんか散歩の途中で道端に生えてる雑草とかむしゃむしゃ食べてるの見るよ。
あ、それなんだっけ？肉ばっかり食べていると胸焼けするから食べるんじゃなかったっけ？でも今朝だって配給の玉ねぎ食べさせようとしたけど完全にそっぽ向いて見向きもしなかったよ。
Just picky, man.
犬に玉ねぎ食べさせちゃダメですよ。犬に玉ねぎを食べさせると貧血を起こすって言うじゃないですか。え、そうなの？チョコレートもダメだって言うよね。それこそ犬に食べさせるぐらいなら自分で食べますよ。あー、まあね。私も小森に同じようなこと言ったらさ、なんか責任感じたみたいで。犬が食べられそうなもの探すって今日も朝からずっと山の中を歩き回ってるよ。へえ、トリュフでも見つけてくるんですかね。
There are truffle sniffing dogs, aren't there?
あれ？トリュフは豚が探すんじゃなかった？
何にせよ犬だけじゃなくて私たちの食べるものが問題ですよね。このまま雑草ばっかり食べててもそう長くは持ちませんよ。
Having waited 3 days, we could hold out another 7. That was Kazuki's estimate. We'd stay here for another week, sipped on weed soup. If our rescuers hadn't arrived by then, we'd have no choice but to go get help ourselves. Most likely, the captain was preserving a stock of food for that purpose. When I said as much, Kaneda scowled dubiously.
でもさ、救助を呼びに行くってどうやって？
Clearly the fruit is in the discussions of these girls. As she spoke, Kaneda scratched irritably at the bandage wrapped around her forehead. The wound underneath must have been growing itchy in the humidity.
誰か一人代表者を決めてその人に水と食料を託して山を降りてもらうんです。
降りられるならとっくにそうしてるでしょうが。こんな道もないような山どうやって降りるのよ。どっちに進めばいいのかすらわからないのに。
だから部長と先生はそれを調べるために今も山に入っているんじゃないですか。
責任者の自主的な行動って言えば聞こえはいいけどさ、それって無駄に食料を減らしてるだけじゃん。いっそのこと全員で別々の方向に山を降りればいいんだよ。
Yeah, but the problem with that, Kaneda, is if someone does get out, you can't save the others.
だからそれは。
We didn't have nearly enough provisions for a gamble like that, and we couldn't just abandon the wounded. There was only one practical plan: endure as long as we could on these meager rations, claw open a path through the wilderness that trapped us here, hope all the while for the arrival of our rescuers. And then once our investigations yielded something in the way of landmarks, send off a representative with 3 days worth of food. When another 3 days passed, we could send off a second representative. By following the signs the first had left to mark the surest trail, they should make it further down the mountain. Lashing one short stick to the next, slowly but surely we would draw closer to our objective. This was an ideal that had grown out of Kazuki's theoretical digital communication plan. If we could repeat this often enough, in theory we would eventually be able to escape. There were no guarantees, and I found myself hesitant to explain.
喧嘩はやめましょうよ。それこそ無駄にお腹が減るだけじゃないですか。
Welcome back, Shade Loves.
喧嘩なんてしてないじゃん。話し合ってるだけだよ。だったらその無駄にイライラした口調やめてもらっていいですか？Amaneに八つ当たりしたって仕方がないでしょう。 私がいつ八つ当たりしたってのよ。金田、それに息吹もその辺にしときなよ。
I've often heard that a calcium deficiency makes you prone to fits of irritability, but at that moment, although all of our diets were badly unbalanced, the main cause of our crankiness was clearly the constant gnawing hunger we all shared. It's easy to be polite on a full stomach, as they say. Go pee. In the end, we kept at our game of cards until Captain Sagashita and Mr. Ochi returned from their expedition. I finished with a so-so record of 3 defeats and 4 victories. In exchange for 3 of the 12 blocks of chocolate from my bar, I obtained 4 pieces of soft candy wrapped in aluminum foil. Against the contrast of my slightly dirty palm and muddy fingernails, those spoils of war looked irresistibly beautiful. I brought one to my nose and inhaled deeply. With the bittersweet scent of strawberry wafting through a wrapper, my mouth was instantly overflowing with drool. There were 4 candies in my palm. If I popped one in my mouth right now, nobody would ever know. It wouldn't even be a net loss to my group. I would have lost 3 small pieces of chocolate and brought back 3 comparable chunks of sugar. As my thoughts raced unbidden through these calculations, I swallowed the spit in my mouth. As it slid lukewarm down my throat, I came to my sense with a guilty jolt. It would be dishonest, unfair, cowardly to eat one now. Nothing less than a betrayal of Kazuki. And once I betrayed her, I would probably continue to do so. That was a line I couldn't cross.
何か悩み事？あまね。どうかした？ツッキ、あなた、分かってて私をいじめているの？
Tom, that's because people double your age are retarded. They are in desperate need of some common sense.
何のこと？全然わからないわ。
It really seemed like a deliberately timed appearance on her part. But even if it was a coincidence, Kazuki's luck to appear at that exact moment would have been frightening in its own right. After one long deep breath, I jerked my head down in a bow of apology.
ごめん、カズキ。私今、カズキに内緒でつまみ食いしようか悩んでた。あら、正直。そんなの黙っていればわからないのに。わからないからこそ汚い行為なんだよ。
I held out the soft candies I won in the game and the remains of the chocolate bar to Kazuki. Cupping her hands gently over mine to receive them, Kazuki flashed me a satisfied smile.
大丈夫よ。それができないあなただから、私はあなたに全てを任せたのだから。はい。あんしなさい。
A plague earlier today. Yeah, he did.
あん。
Kazuki deftly unwrapped one of the candies she received from me and then plopped a small white pillow into my half-open mouth.
おいしい？
Candy was unbelievably sweet to my tongue. My entire mouth was instantly flooded with the taste of sugar, and the next moment it felt as though that vibrant sweetness was seeping into my veins and spreading throughout my body. That single piece of candy was so delicious I was actually trembling. Kazuki watched affectionately as I rolled my eyes up in bliss and swirled the candy clumsily around my mouth, then popped another of the candies into her own mouth. The words, "Goodness, it really is tasty," smiled in pleasure.
でもこういった熱量食は一人でこっそりと食べた方が美味しいのかもしれないわね。どうして？私の弟がそうだったの。変に禁欲的というか、好きなものをあげてもあまり喜ばないし、後で一人で隠れてこっそり食べるの。どうしてって聞けば、下手に喜ぶと誰かに取り上げられるかもしれないし、一人の方が落ち着くっていうのよね。人間は喜んでいる瞬間が一番無防備だということをすでにあの年齢で知っているのだから、さすがは私の弟ね。そういう卑屈に歪んでいるところもすごく可愛いわ。なんだかわかるようなわからないような。
Just everyone's friendly reminder that Kazuki is a brocon.
理解しない方が幸せよ。特に家族に対してすら不器用にしか生きられない人間はね。
Family. That brief word resonated painfully inside me. Felt as though an icicle had unexpectedly pierced my chest to the core. What were my parents doing right now? Worrying about their missing daughter? Suddenly the live stream is silent! Wow. Why is it so quiet? It was a little past 5 o'clock. Normally I would have been heading home from after school practice right about that time. I tended to come home a little hungry from practice. The refrigerator would be packed full of sweet drinks. On the kitchen table, more snacks than I could possibly need were always waiting for me. After a satisfying snack, I could head to the bathroom and take a long, luxurious soak in steaming hot water. Then cool down with a cup of cold milk, idly distorting my voice in the electric fan while my mother prepared dinner. Without even asking, my parents offered me more food than I could eat. I accepted it without a second thought, often without even a word of thanks. That stupid, ungrateful ignorance filled me with bitter shame. Guys. Yeah. Yes. Remember, guys. This is why you give thanks for any and all meals. Because you never know. You never know. Just saying. Just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. But at the same time, comparing myself then to the filthy, frightened girl who just quivered ecstatically over a single piece of candy, I couldn't repress a surge of miserable self-pity.
Amane? どうして泣くの? 泣いてないよ。
She is.
周りを見てごらんなさい。
As instructed, I looked around the area only to find it deserted.
今はあなたと私しかいないわ。
There's no need to hold back. The instant those words left her mouth, I felt the tears glands swell up in the corner of my eyes. My self-restraint crumbled like sand and I burst into violent sobs. Aww. Crying wasn't going to fix anything. Nobody was going to swoop down and rescue me. No matter how much I grieved over my own powerlessness and ignorance, there were no do-overs to be had. What was done couldn't be undone. Hiding my twisted, wretched expression behind the palm of my hand, I crumbled to my knees on the spot. Without a word, Kazuki drew near, wrapped her arms around my head, hugged me against her slender stomach. Pathetic. Utterly pathetic. When I was still a child, there was a girl among the neighborhood kids who'd break into tears at the slightest thing. I remember thinking of her as a nuisance, stupid, useless crybaby. If I weep, somebody will come help me. Somebody will take pity on me and solve my problems for me. The transparent self-interest behind her actions was just as irritating as the blubbering itself. And now, I become just such a worthless, moaning crybaby, rubbing my runny nose against the belly of a girl considerably smaller than me, sobbing into her skirt. Yes, day 3 alone was really short. I think day 4, they're already in the evening. It's coming towards the end of it too, so yeah, I'm already noticing that.
いいのよ、大丈夫。今すぐってわけにはいかないけれど、いつか必ず私があなたを家に帰してあげる。約束するわ。
Oh, that sounds, that's a death flag! As she spoke, Kazuki took one arm from around my head and began to softly stroke my hair. My family wasn't with me. There's no way such a pointless, clingy little breakdown could have been anything but irritating to anyone in this place. They were all suffering just the same. But even so, Kazuki didn't push me aside. She held me gently in her arms and accepted it all, offering me soothing, hopeful words. Oh man, I'm so glad I'm live streaming. Thanks, YouTube. That kindness was painful in its own right, but at the same time it felt like an irreplaceably precious gift.
Kazuki は辛くないの? 帰りたくないの?
Turning my face up from Kazuki's belly, I met her gaze with watery eyes and mumbled a distinctly childish question. She gave me a little laugh, her stomach shaking lightly against me. I answered, "Don't worry about me, I'm a genius."
帰りたいかと聞かれれば、それはもちろん帰りたいわ。私がいないうちに弟が両親にいじめられてやしないかと思うと気が気じゃないわ。
I mean, sometimes it's right away, sometimes it's 30 minutes late. You know, closing a single eye, Kazuki furrowed her brow and pursed her lips.
こんなことになるのなら、小森さんが犬をそうしたように、私も弟をバッグに詰めて内緒で連れ込んでしまえばよかった。
Oh my god, please
失
don't.
敗したわね。
Please don't, Kazuki. No, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have worked out too well for you. With one final loud sniffle, I found my sobs had given way to a small burst of laughter.
天才でも失敗するんだ。もちろん天才だって失敗はするわ。失敗を失敗で終わらせない人を天才というのよ。そしてそれに一生気がつかない人を凡人と呼ぶの。
Guys, take notes. It's true. The ability to overcome is what makes someone strong.
天才も楽じゃないね。
I mean, yeah, it sucks, but what else?
私の苦労を思いばかる余裕が出たのなら、そろそろ泣き止んでいただける？大の男を腹で泣かせることができれば女として一人前だとは言うけれど、あなたは女の子だしね。そろそろ鬱陶しいかも。
I like Kazuki. No, Kazuki's a very great character. It's very interesting actually getting to know her, meet her here.
優しくないな、カズキは。それは心外だわ。私だってできることならあなたが泣き疲れて眠ってしまうまでベッドで絵本でも読んであげたいけれど、ここにはベッドも絵本もないのだから仕方がないでしょ。
That's fair.
ごめんね。多分もう大丈夫だから。なんだろうね。自分でもなんで急に泣いたのかわからないよ。流した涙はきっちりと舐めておきなさい。貴重な塩分がもったいないわ。それと
Kazuki reached out, took my hand, and dropped all the remaining candy and chocolate onto my palm.
これはあなたに預けます。即効性の高い熱量食は貴重よ。私がいいと言うまで手をつけずに保管すること。いい？わかった。
Yeah, it looks like Kazuki's probably more aware of this situation than Amane realizes. I think Kazuki knows how this might play out, and that's why she's trusting Amane to be the one that makes it back through all of this. Kazuki was entrusting me with such important provisions. It was clear she genuinely trusted me. I absolutely couldn't betray that trust. Biting my lower lip at the heavy sense of responsibility, stared intently at the chocolate in my hand. Watching my reaction, Kazuki sighed slowly through her nose.
生真面目なのはいいけれど、責任と責任感を履き違えないことね。
It's like the only... Nah. Mary Sue's would not have... Usually Mary Sue's don't have that much personality. Just saying. Like, people who are completely overpowered and perfect, quote unquote. Like, because the writer wanted to write them that way. They're usually less human feeling than even, like Kazuki is. Or Yuji even. Like, even Yuji before, he had a ton of interesting personality that made him likable enough as a character, I think. Actually, that's been true for the Fruit of Grisaia. A lot of the characters here in this flashback are probably some of the weakest we've met. And it shows that they've put a lot more care into, like, the main cast of characters, which I think is a good thing. Like, I think that's a good thing, because they focus on them to the point where they even made a school setting that only has those 6 students and the principal and JB showing up every once in a while.
そうやって何でも我慢して耐えちゃう子は弟を見ているようで切なくなるし、そんな子は長生きはできないわよ。
Kazuki route? Yeah, because I think in the other game, right, that has the true ending, it only adds a JB and the president route, right? You know, not even like a Kazuki incest route, but what if there was an ending with Kazuki surviving? Or potential another Fruit of Grisaia IF. Come on, Da Capo can do it. Da Capo can do it. Well, clearly, apparently I should play the Magical Mutual game because that has a living Kazuki there somewhere.
責任と責任感って何が違うの?
Ah, yeah, that's actually a very interesting distinction.
負うべきものが責任。負わなくていいものまで追いたがるのが責任感。その境目を見失わないように。
Never carry more than you can. Always look out for yourself as well.
よくわからないけど、わかったふりだけしておくよ。
Yeah, well, we'll get through this flashback and see what happens, right? I don't get it, but I don't need to get it either. Kazuki says so, that's the way it is. Hey, look, it's the Higurashi from When They Cry Higurashi, the cicadas. I was aware I'd taken the easy path and letting someone else think for me, but honestly, I didn't really care anymore. Clumsy idiot who tries to take a heavy burden on their shoulders won't achieve anything but catastrophic failure. I understood that just fine even before Kazuki drove the point home. For that very reason, I decided to obey her orders without a second thought. Kazuki told me I couldn't eat that candy without her permission, so I would sit on my haunches slobbering like a dog until she spoke the magic words. If permission never came, I'd wait out the years and carry them to my grave. In this situation, where nothing seemed certain except uncertainty, the one and only thing I had come to believe in was Kazumi Kazuki. Well, we'll see. We'll see, like, when we get to the end of the flashback, right? Kept the thought to myself, since I was well aware she'd only offer another sarcastic, "Might you be mistaking me for a god?" in response. At this point, I would probably have answered, "Huh? You're not?" That was what Kazumi Kazuki had become for me. Day 5, it's raining! Oh, that's gonna be a big hit on the fatigues. Fifth day in the valley. Let's begin from the conclusion. Today it rained all day long. To be honest, I had no idea rain could be this unpleasant. The constant drumming of water against the tent was unexpectedly loud, enough to make conversation difficult. The light entering the tents was far dimmer than usual. Thanks to my strong astigmatism, everything seemed fuzzy and indistinct, so it was extremely difficult to do much of anything. But the bigger problem was the rainwater that oozed up from the ground beneath us and damp chill it brought. This morning I woke up to a real double whammy, the psychological jolt of emerging from a familiar nightmare and the physical pain of a throbbing headache. Yeah, that's true. Because they're doing the episodes for the third main entry in the series, right now? Magical Mutual is a spin-off, guys. I will play that on my own time, probably. Because no one likes Mutual as much as I do. Thanks, guys. I piled 2 mats under my sleeping bag last night, but when I came to, I was soaking wet. Body temperature had fallen as I slept, and the chilled blood running through my veins had numbed the blood vessels to my brain. Even after waking, my calorie-starved body struggled to warm itself. My teeth chattering uncontrollably in my mouth, I stared reproachfully up through the tent at the merciless sky. I'm gonna make a joke of the Michiru route. Changing out of my wet clothes might have helped matters somewhat if my spare outfit hadn't been soaked through as well. I hit on the idea of a hot drink after a few minutes, but it was pouring outside the tent. Starting a fire would have been difficult, and more importantly, the fierce sound of rain striking against the canvas had thoroughly drained me of the willpower to even poke my head outside. Hey! Apparently unable to just sit back and watch, Kazuki had ventured out in the midst of the downpour for my sake, bringing back boiling water for our onion skin extract beverage. The stuff was never really worthy of the name tea, but by now we let those same skins seep so many times it was little more than faintly yellow water. Of course, I was plenty happy to have even that, Kazuki's act of mercy contrasted so strongly with my own cowardice that I felt about ready to cry with gratitude. When I glanced over at her sitting there, her wet hair matted like a stray dog's coat, couldn't exactly fire off a casual, "Sure, a refill would be nice." Hand still gripping the empty cup, I slowly shook my head. Guys, it's no contest, man. Beecher is better.
明け方近くに大きな雷が何度も落ちたのに、あなた全然目を覚まさなかったわね。なんか大きな音がしてるなとは思ったけど。
Even when the roars jolted me awake for a moment, my listlessness quickly overwhelmed me again. Simply didn't have the energy to wake up that early. Immediately after the fall, I'd been unable to sleep through the night. As I dozed lightly with frequent interruptions, the morning often seemed to sneak up on me before I knew it. But lately, that had changed dramatically. Once I managed to doze off, it was very difficult to wake up. More and more, falling asleep felt like sinking into a thick bed of mud.
疲れてるのかな。肉体的というよりは精神的な疲労が濃いのでしょうね。それと単純に環境に慣れ始めたのが原因ね。過酷な環境に慣れないうちは寝ている間に記憶の整理を行いながらも周囲の状況に警戒を怠らないから小さな物音でも目を覚ましてしまうのよ。
It sounded plausible, now that she mentioned it. The first few days sleeping in a tent, the stirring of a neighbor next door would be enough to jerk me awake. My eyes would open automatically at the first light of dawn. In that respect, Kazumi Kazuki was an ideal tent mate. Once asleep, she'd lie so still in her bag, I sometimes half worried she'd suddenly died in there. Never once heard her snore or grunt in her sleep. Lately, Kazuki has been sleeping on a very regular schedule. We'd start preparation for dinner at 6:30 p.m. and finish our meal by 7, or would pass for a meal at this point at least. By 8, I noticed her stifling small yawns, and around 9 she'd come out and declare herself sleepy. At 10, she would crawl into our tent, cheerfully spread out her sleeping bag, take off her uniform, and leave it neatly folded at her bedside. And the instant her head hit the rucksack she used for her pillow, she'd exhale noisily just once and go silent. Within 10 seconds, I'd hear the soft, regular breathing that indicates she'd fallen asleep. Of course, I couldn't flip the switch to sleep mode quite as so easily, or on such a predictable schedule. My conversational partner lost, I had very little to do with myself late at night. So until I managed to fall asleep, I'd stave off boredom by staring at Kazuki's sleeping face. After a few minutes in dreamland, she'd occasionally make faces in her sleep, most often furrowing her brow in a caricature of a troubled thought, sometimes smiling dopely at nothing in particular.
ねえ、カズキって夢を見たりするの？そうね。看護師さんとかお花屋さんとかケーキ屋さんなんて素敵ね。そういう話じゃなくてさ。
Like when you're sleeping. And in the first place, what's with the half-assed attempt at pretending you're some run-of-the-mill girl with cutesy little dreams? Forget being a nurse. You'd be much better suited to the role of a black market surgeon with a tattered old doctor's robe. Florist? Cupcake peddler? Try con artist. Maybe the founder of some sketchy cult?
ああ、夢って睡眠時に見る方の話？それならもちろん見るわよ。
Kazuka's like, hey, that's kind of rude.
どんな夢？今日見たのは学校に入りたての頃、学食のセルフサービスのシステムがよくわからなくて戸惑った時の夢を見たわ。基本的に過去に経験した記憶の再配置が多いかしら。空を飛んだりするような夢はあまり見ないわね。
Yeah, I never had the flying through the sky variety of dreams either. Like, even, like, supernatural dreams and stuff are usually very much based in reality for me when I sleep. I don't know.
そうなんだ。私は最近高いところから落ちる夢をよく見るよ。
Yeah, I've never had that dream before. I've had dreams of the sort ever since I was a child. Most often, I'm falling from the top of a cliff. As the ground beneath my feet crumbles to nothing, I plunge downward, stare in quiet composure at the earth far below. My thoughts are oddly calm. Guess I'm going to land right about there. And as long as I keep that detached perspective, I never seem to hit the ground. Eventually, it occurs to me that I'm dreaming. The next moment, I slam into the earth and jerk awake in my bed, my whole body rigid with shock. What might a dream like that signify? Kazuki's answer is brief. It means you're uneasy. Other than falling, my most common dreams was probably of the running variety. This very morning, I had found myself fleeing some vaguely defined but menacing pursuers. A countless number of black shadows hot on my heels. I was pushing my way desperately forward through the oily, thick air, dragging my strangely heavy legs along the ground. The illusion was unusually persistent. Even when I realized it was a dream, it kept its hold on me. Just as I began to beg myself to wake up, my eyes had slowly opened to the sensation of that throbbing headache. I turned on my cell phone briefly to check the time. Apparently it was already past 2 p.m. The rain was still hammering fiercely down. By now, the tent was half submerged in muddy water. There was nothing to do but curl myself up in a heavy wet uniform, rubbing my arms and trembling from the cold. Although I was doing nothing at all, my stomach was still growling, and although my stomach was growling, it was still raining outside. Thinking of the time it would take to start a cooking fire, I lost all motivation to try. What were the other girls doing right now? Took a quick glance out the entrance of the tent, but there didn't seem to be anyone moving through the downpour. They must have all been quietly enduring the storm in their tents. The steady drumming of the rain was the only sound I could hear. Cries of the cicadas, so vigorous and persistent when the weather was clear, were utterly gone. So too the eerie shrieks of the unseen birds hidden in the tree tops above.
Kazuki?
Suddenly wanted to hear another human voice. I called Kazuki's name. There was no response. When I looked over, I found Kazuki sitting on her sleeping mat, just as before. At some point, her eyes had fallen closed. I read Kazuki would take a nap sometime between 2 and 3 in the afternoon. It was never more than a quick 15-minute doze, so the first few times I thought she just nodded off out of exhaustion. It happened every day at roughly the same time. So it soon became obvious this little siesta was part of her schedule. Man, I wish I could take a 15-minute nap every day. That would be awesome. I could really use it. Like at 2 o'clock, yeah, if I could take 15 minutes, man. Nobody's going to complain if you lie down like a normal person. Of course, considering the minor flood we had going on in here, that probably wouldn't be a much more relaxing option at the moment. This was a grave problem indeed. We'd have to think of a countermeasure of some sort before it happened again. But the damp floor isn't the only inconvenience brought on by the rain. For one thing, writing in this diary isn't easy when the pages are wet. And unfortunately, I've been in the grips of a much more serious dilemma for a while now. Probably thanks to that big mug of onion tea this morning. Currently enduring a desperate need for a visit to the bathroom. Yeah, naps are nice. The urge to pee was painfully intense, requiring constant effort to restrain. My pen trembled against the diary pages as I wrote. I surveyed the interior of the tent, but found nothing that might serve as a makeshift umbrella or raincoat. When this rain lets up, I'm going straight to the captain, proposing we cobble together an outhouse with a roof. I'll make a special note of that here so it can't possibly slip my mind. Next day! The 6th day in the valley. After a full day of unrelenting rain, we woke to a blessedly clear morning. Our life here had begun to assume something of a rhythm. Initially, our mornings were a bit chaotic, with people crawling out of their tents at random times. But recently, everyone's been waking up by 6 a.m. at the latest, although it would be more accurate to say they're being forcibly woken up. Naturally, the one beating the stragglers out of bed is none other than my partner, Kazumi Kazuki. Of course, that doesn't mean she literally goes around thrashing them. That would be much too inefficient. The recipient of her violence is the bottom of an anodized aluminum cooking pot. 15 minutes before the 6 a.m. wake-up call, Kazumi dangled the pot in question from a tree branch. Began to wail away on the metal surface with a wooden sword she nicknamed the punishment rod, producing a piercing series of clangs. Yeah, we're flying. Then shouted a wake-up call in full military style. What's the deal with that punishment rod, anyway? Sadly, it's nothing more than a crude wooden sword we'd use to split watermelons as part of our recreational activities at the camp. And when someone as tiny as Kazuki brandishes it around, it looks less like a weapon, more like a prop for some corny slapstick routine. 10 minutes after that initial wake-up came the signal for folding hammocks. Apparently we're on an old-fashioned battleship now. For 5 minutes to roll up our sleeping bags and mat. The pot received another vigorous thrashing for the 6 a.m. muster, all hands lined up in front of the tents for roll call. Obviously this is all pretty annoying, and at first there were a lot of complaints. But when forcefully informed that fixing a regular schedule of activity in order to reset your body's internal clock is the fundamental basis of a sound health maintenance plan, nobody had enough of a counter-argument to voice open objections. And so every morning the entire group gathers obediently in a line for their daily physical. Or as seniors refer to it behind our backs, Professor Kazumi's tour of inspection. These health checkups amount to little more than a quick interview about any ailments, followed by any words of caution the doctor has to offer. Considering our isolation and general cluelessness, Kazumi's extensive knowledge has become something of a reassuring guidepost for many, so this daily advice is fairly well received, for the most part. We might get to day 7. Yeah, we're flying through, finished day 3, 4, and 5 already. It's only been an hour. So comparison to an imperious doctor sweeping around their hospital might suggest, Kazuki has a retinue on these rounds. I tag along beside her from one patient to the next, taking notes in the memo pad we've devoted to medical records. The summary I jot down at the end of the page doesn't change much from day to day. No major problems given the circumstances. To rephrase, everyone's suffering from varying degrees of malnutrition, but they're not about to keel over and die today or tomorrow. After the general inspection, we turn our attention to those who suffered external injuries, that is Kanade and the cut on her forehead, as well as Sakurai and her lacerated abdomen. We perform what treatment we can, cleaning the crudely stitched wounds with a disinfectant made from wild herbs, replacing their bandages with ones we'd wash clean and sterilized in boiling water. And finally we stopped by to visit Hiroka-san, the large tent to wipe the sweat from her feverish body. Well, this part's pretty much exclusively my job by now. When the morning rounds are finished at last, I seek out Mr. Ochi and report everyone's health acceptable while Kazuki heads to Koide-senpai's tent. The daily rations for each individual are being adjusted depending on the severity of their malnutrition symptoms, as diagnosed by Kazuki. The distribution of the day's food, or as Kazuki now refers to it, chow time, is held at 7 a.m. Until then, everyone's supposed to take care of their laundry and air out their bedding. In particular, our sleeping bags have to be thoroughly dried in the sun on a regular basis, or they'll be sprouting clumps of mold before we know it. After passing on the medical report, I return to our tent, grab Kazuki's bedding along with mine, and lay them out on top of the tent to dry. Finally, I head to the stream to take care of our combined laundry, then making my way to the captain's tent with our rice cooker to receive our daily rations. The routine started normally enough this morning, but as this final step, ran into our first serious breakdown in the process, one that will probably have lingering effects going forward. I arrived slightly early at the captain's tent where she manages our entire food supply, in cooperation with Mr. Ochi and her partner, Koide, who was waiting inside as usual, but today her face was ghastly pale.
何かあったんですか？
一本足りないの。どうしよ
う。足りないって何がです？
Short.
人参の数よ。小出さん、数え間違いではなくて？もう一度数え直してみては？人参？
As they explained the situation to me, there had been a total of 11 carrots carefully stocked away. On Captain Sakashita's orders, when that number fell to 10, they were planning to halt distribution and hold the rest in reserve. When Koide-san counted this morning, the 11th carrot they'd been intending to divide and hand out to the group was missing.
じゃあ、今日から人参は配給されないってこと？それはさして重要ではないのよ。問題はいつの間にか1本消えていたという事実ね。消えた？人参に足があるわけでもないし、一人でに消えることはないわ。ということは可能性は2つ。単純に数え間違えていたか、もしくは誰かが食べちゃったか。
私じゃないよ。私食べてない。本当だよ。私人参なんて嫌いだし。
疑ってはいませんから安心してください。ただそうなるともっと厄介な問題が浮上してくるのよね。
Yeah, that's not gonna be good. Damn dogs eating carrots!
どういうこと？つまり誰かが盗んだという問題です。
Oh, because you can't trust anybody. Michiru ate the carrot. Damn it! Michiru just came from the future and said, I want this. Thanks. I mean, it's not like I like carrots or anything. Actually munches on it.
盗まれた？誰に？
そう。厄介なのはその点です。こんな閉鎖空間で犯人探しでも始めようものなら、 誰もが疑心に暗鬼を生みます。
Yeah, the easiest way would be to figure it out before you start pointing fingers. It's true.
正直、現状では結束や信頼が失われるのが最大のデメリットです。
Everyone suspects everyone else and is suspected in turn. That's never a pleasant feeling, and it rarely ends well. Certainly wouldn't help that our group was composed of half-starved teenage girls. If the criminal were discovered, there was no doubt she would have faced a vicious denunciation session. And if the investigation failed, it was all too obvious that reign of condemnation would fall instead on Koide for allowing this theft from our food supply to take place for her incompetence.
どうしよう。助けてよ、鏡さん。私が悪いんじゃないよね。だって私ちゃんと千秋さんの言う通りに、部長の言う通りにしただけだよ。
落ち着きなさい、りっちゃん。
いや、りっちゃんって呼んでやるなよ、先輩だぞ。あんた幼なじみか。
いいですか、小出さん。幸いなことに人参紛失の事実を知っているのはここにいる人間と犯人だけです。つまり黙っていればバレないのではなくて、
うわ、隠蔽だよ。泥に泥を塗って隠す気だ、この女。
それは無理。人参の残りの本数は部長も先生も知ってるし、黙っていてもいつかバレちゃう。
It wasn't a proportionally large theft, but carrots are easy to count. Its disappearance would be all too obvious.
この場合、解決法というか打開策は2つあります。面白い方法とつまらない方法があるけれど、どっちが聞きたい？
The fun way, clearly, right?
面白い方。
She's simple.
いや、両方聞かせろよ。
Amane, learning.
それじゃあまずは面白い方だけど、これは簡単。もうね、いっそのことここにある人参全部持って逃げる。逃げる？
なんで？どこ
に？人参がなくなって何が困るって突き詰めた話、部長にこっぴどく叱られるのが一番嫌なわけでしょ。だったら人参を全部持って山に逃げ込んでそのまま脱出を試みてはどうかしら。うまいこと脱出して救助を呼ぶことができれば、たかが人参を持ち逃げしたことなんてもう誰も責めないだろうし、むしろ救世主として末代までの語り草になるわよ。
That is very funny, actually.
それがあんたの言う面白い方法？
Somehow survived the wilderness by stealing the rest of their carrots. Get help. Save us all. You're a hero, not the carrot thief.
面白いわよね。
It does sound very fun, actually.
いや、全然。
You underestimate fun, Amane.
あれ？
Shucks! Oh, shucks!
あれ？じゃねえよ。
English and Japan, wow, yeah. England and Japan do not translate. English and Japanese do not translate perfectly, as you can see.
真面目に考えてよ。私、このままじゃ千秋さんに怒られる。
Yep, the boring way time.
ちなみに、つまらない方法ってのは？
ああ、それはもう本当につまらないわよ。ただの因数合わせね。
何それ？
要は人参の本数が合っていれば何も問題はないのでしょ。
Those words, Katsuki picked up a kitchen knife and casually looped off the tip of the nearest carrot. With quick, firm strokes, she sliced the carrot into pieces and started right in on the next one.
ちょっと、貴重な食べ物をおもちゃにしないで。
まあいいから落ち着いてよく見なさい。どう？ほら、これで11本。
When I looked down at the cutting board, the missing vegetable had somehow reappeared. I counted the sliced carrots again, slowly and carefully. There were 11 in total.
何これ？11本。あれ？嘘、本当に11本ある。不思議。どうやったの？
Just cut a little bit from all the other 10.
結構有名なパズルなんだけれど知らない？ ある物体を切り分けて並べ替えると全体の面積が増えたり、逆にピースを追加しても面積は変化しないといったよくあるパラドックスパズルよ。
Yep.
あ、そういえばなんかお土産物屋さんの店先で木でできたそんなパズル見たことがある。
多分それはペントミノとかそれ系のものだと思うけど、今回私がやったのはもっとずっと単純なものよ。一部が欠けているのが一目でわかるしね。人参の本数がもっと多ければそれに比例して欠損部が小さくなるからバレにくいんだけど。うわー、
気持ち悪い。魔女だ。あんた魔女だよ。恐ろしい。
マジか。
失礼な。あんまり生意気なことを言うとネズミに変えるわよ。
私魔女でもいい。風見さんありがとう。この恩は必ず返すから。
No, you're not, Ritsu. I'm sorry.
いいのよりっちゃん、気にしないで。
だからりっちゃん呼ぶなって。先輩だっつってんだろ。
Was Koide Senpai aware exactly who she just put herself in debt to? Even so, Kazuki said not to worry about it, so maybe a trick like that doesn't even register as a favor for her. Personally, though, I thought her smile at that moment was saying, I don't expect you'd be of much use to me anyway, and it sent a bit of a chill down my spine. Either way, I sure as heck didn't have the courage to ask Kazuki for clarification. But now... Oh, is it the next day already? Flying through this. 7th day of the valley. Flying through this. That was only 10 minutes or so. 11 minutes, maybe. Status quo unchanged. The end. No, I guess that's a bit too extreme in a bridge version. We now spent a solid week shipwrecked. Naturally, no one was running around like chickens with their head cut off anymore. Our lives had taken on the repetitive quality of a long-running television show that's decayed into a pale imitation of its former self. The kind you keep watching every week out of sheer inertia. Although we were thoroughly sick of eating, or even looking at it, the vile plant soup that had become our primary sustenance, its proportion of our diet was only rising. The amount of rice distributed to us was decreasing steadily with each passing day. And even the edible grasses that seemed so infinitely abundant at first were vanishing with the alarming swiftness from the picked over areas near the entrance to the forest. Everything was in short supply. About the only thing we were gaining more of from day to day was boredom. And as we've grown accustomed to life here, there was a lot less pointless effort being expended, and a lot more time spent sitting around quietly preserving our energy. Other than that, I suppose we at least had an effectively limitless supply of water from the spring. But since we were all using it heavily, the water needed to be boiled before we could drink. There were a number of people who found this delay irritating, sometimes skipping it entirely, myself among them, but Kazuki strongly recommended that we heat the water to 170 degrees for at least a minute, in order to kill the bacteria likely proliferating in the stream. It's very true. Yeah, it might get to day 8, it's true. 13 minutes roughly, yes. And in fact, it seemed that chronic diarrhea had begun to spread among those who continued to drink the water raw.
下痢で思い出した。びっくりした。
Wow. I was like, diarrhea, yelling about it.
急に大きな声を出さないでといつも言っているでしょうに。あなたは本当にもう何なのかしら。私を驚かすのがあなたの中で静かなブームを巻き起こしているとでも言うの？
That is a great line.
あ、ごめん。とりあえず息継ぎをしよう。死んじゃうよ。
次やったらお尻をぶつわよ。
いや、シャアからごめんって。それより聞いて。
何なの？
トイレを作ろうよ。
Let's make a toilet.
は？なぜ病原菌の発生源をわざわざ？あ、いや、そうか。今のうちにガソリンを。なるほど。まずプラスが1ね。
Kazuki said, wait, we can do this.
カズキ？
When I tentatively called her name, Katsuki instantly thrust up her right index finger. This was a signal for her wait 10 seconds. If I ignored this command and kept talking, I knew all too well Katsuki would fire right back with a forceful don't spew out gobs of worthless noise at me when I'm not ready to listen. then glare at me with her deep dark eyes full of cold scorn, muttering almost like a television human form, the disgusted tone of someone pulled out of a bed by a telemarketer. Quickly learned to respect the signal. By now, one finger in the air from Katsuki, and I fell instantly silent for 10 seconds. I could practically see my tail drooping between my legs, like a dog given a firm command to wait. Honestly, I felt a little perverse in admiration at how well she trained me. Hey! I had no idea what sort of calculations Katsuki ran through in those 10 seconds to reverse her initial decision. Maybe she projected the pluses and minuses of building an outhouse through the next decade or so. Whatever the case, I had her permission to proceed with the toilet construction plan. With that settled, I headed off to ask Captain Sakashita's opinion on the matter, admittedly for the sake of form more than anything else. Oh, is even the captain defaulting to Kazumi?
どうせ風見さんが許可を出したから私のところに来たのでしょ。
まあ。
だったら勝手にすれば？そうやっていちいち私に責任を押し付けないと気が済まないの？
別にそういうわけじゃ。
Every student club in our school had its factual disputes. In particular, the sports teams were notorious for their bitter infighting. You could fill a book with the petty spats that raged every year. Our basketball team was no exception from the rule, but it was somewhat unusual in that our conflicts never got too serious. The reason for that lay at the top. Captain Sakashita's charismatic presence would be a nice way to spin it. But to make a long story short, everyone was too afraid of her powerful family to risk making an enemy out of her. But out here, her parents' influence was no longer a prop to her authority, and as our focus narrowed to the problems immediately before us, some potential future reprisal was the last thing on anyone's mind. In other words, the captain's position was growing uncertain. Yeah, everyone's still alive and slightly malnourished. I mean, our education in that school for rich young ladies might not have provided us with many practical skills. There was one noticeable exception. It instilled in us a sharp sense of smell. That is to say, the ability to sniff out the winning horse in any given race. The smell of a clear winner always attracts a crowd, even when they lie at rest. Over the several days we spent in the valley, the number of people surrounding Captain Sakashita had visibly declined. Her only consistent companion was Koide-ritsu, bound to her by a simplistic sense of obligation.
もういいよ、Amane。行こう。
9 days of death. Woo! As I stood stock still in front of the captain, trying in vain to find some response to her words, my fellow freshman Ibuki Haruna pulled me away by the hand. Ibuki's like, just done. Ibuki Haruna. The only child of the president of a corporation headquartered in Kasugabe that imported and sold luxury foreign cards. Kazuki's opinion, decidedly insolent despite her total ignorance of the ways of the world, listless and lazy to boot, an exemplary child of the modern era. And in the opinion of her dorm roommate Sakuma, total coward at heart despite constantly acting tough. And she doesn't even realize everyone knows it.
大体さ、Amaneはいい子すぎなんだよ。善人なんて損するだけだって。
そう言われてもな。
Personally, the idea of gaining personal profit at the expense of being despised by others never really appealed to me. My mom always raised me not to be a nuisance to others. Live your life so as you earn folks' gratitude, not their scorn.
うちはほら、会社の輸入とかやっているでしょ。もうね、びっくりするよ。特にイタリア人。仕事に対する考え方が日本人とは全然違うの。
Yeah, it's a conflict of Western and Eastern culture at that point, Ibuki.
注文した車と届いた車の色が違うなんてのはもう普通だし、クレームの電話を入れれば、担当者は今ご睡の時間ですって。昼寝してるから電話に出られないってどう？時間をずらして何度も電話して、やっと担当者が捕まったかと思えば、こちらはちゃんと注文通りの色の車を送ったって何の臆面もなく言うのよ。そんなはずはない。実際に届いたのは違う色の車だって言えば、じゃあ輸送中に誰かが色を塗り替えたんだ、とにかくうちのミスじゃないって、そんなバカな話ってある？それで結局泣き寝入りしてしまうのが善人なのよ。結局のところ善人なんてのは弱者を耳障りよくしただけのことよ。
It still pays to be a nice guy, guys. Nice guys finish last because you have to let the woman finish first. Metal, Good words to live by. Be a nice guy. Finish second.
それも極端だと思うけどな。
Nice person equals weakling. Trapped in the bottom of a gloomy ravine, we were all struggling to stay alive from day to day. Act like a soft-hearted good girl in such a harsh situation, you'd only be taken advantage of. It was an extreme argument, even an immoral one. But I couldn't deny there was a kernel of truth buried underneath the bitterness. Ibuki had a definite dislike for soft-hearted people from the very beginning. She was always the sort to be vocal about her distastes. But since the fall, that element of her personality had been growing more pronounced acerbic by the day. More pronounced and acerbic by the day. Little by little, everything was growing warped. Without food, our minds were robbed of composure as surely as our bodies were robbed of nutrients. Under such conditions, human beings lose their self-restraint. They slide slowly off the rails. I watched Ibuki quietly from behind as we walked. Her school uniform was seriously grimy. Not that mine was any better. No matter how diligently we washed our clothes, it's just unavoidable in this place. Ibuki had been one of the more fashion-conscious girls on the team. These last few days, she hadn't even been glancing in her mirror. Without warning, she came to a stop and turned back to face me.
あれ、何の話をしてたんだっけ？
あ、イタリア人の話？
Alright, switch the phone, Shade.
あ、そっか。どこまで話したっけ？
Oh no. Memory loss. Short-term memory loss. That's a problem. Oh shoot. I can think of so many things that would cause those symptoms. I don't want to go. I don't want to run. Nope. Brain stop. Okay, good. Don't want to run through those.
その話はもう終わったと思うけど。
そうだっけ？ごめん。なんか私ぼーっとしてたみたい。なんだか最近物忘れも多くて嫌になっちゃう。
いぶき、大丈夫？
To a greater or lesser extent, everyone here had been losing weight. Ibuki had been slim in the first place. She was edging into emaciated territory. Her arms were as thin as branches on a withered tree, where they emerged from her sleeves.
いぶき、また痩せた？
ああ、うん。かもね。
She laughed it off, getting thinner and thinner even though I'm doing nothing at all. What was the point of all the hard work I put into those diets? But I found it impossible to crack a smile in return.
体重計があれば何キロ減ったかわかるのにな。
You don't want to know, man. Ibuki, trust me, you don't
ち
want
ゃ
to
んと
know.
食べた方がいいよ。
食べるって何を？
それは。
That's a good question. When she asked point blank like that, I didn't have much to say. We both knew perfectly well there was nothing left to fill her stomach. Watching as I hesitated awkwardly, Ibuki gave a high-pitched little giggle, then turned around and walked straight off toward her tent. Human beings are malleable. Our environment changes us. Dropped into a warped situation, we were slowly warping ourselves to match. Small personality shifts like Ibuki's were far from the worst of it. Our extended stay in this place had given rise to far more serious problems, some of which were rapidly becoming impossible to ignore.
Amane, 悪いけれど、また薬草を積んできてもらえない？
Yeah, especially when the injuries are getting worse.
また毒ダミでいい？お願い。あと、できれば何か食べられそうなものを探してきてくれると助かるわ。
Yep, it's because you have to constantly treat the injured until they're healed. But if you don't have enough food for them to actually heal, you're basically just staving off death. Not good.
探してはないけど。わかってる。見つけるまで帰ってくるなとは言わないわ。薬草を積むついでに探すだけでいいから。後で大テントに届けてちょうだい。わかった。
A large tent, in other words, our little camp's sad excuse for a hospital. Things are going downhill, Shade? Uh-oh. Are you like that bus? Damn! You know what, Metal? Just for that, 10 out of 10. That was excellent timing. You waited for that too. He's like, going downhill, like the bus off the cliff. Perfect. Kazuki was visiting it several times a day, conversing with and treating the wounded. Sakurai's wound had given initial indications of recovery, to the point she was increasingly able to move around. A few days ago, it had apparently begun to fester. In fact, it was that very mobility that caused the problem. After many long days lying in that humid tent, breathing air thick with the pus and sweat characteristic of a place occupied by the wounded, Sakurai snuck out in Kazuki's absence and bathed in the bacteria-laden spring. The gash in her abdomen wasn't so deep as to threaten her life, but it was by no means shallow. Thanks to her malnutrition, the laceration simply hadn't closed completely, and so, seeing the bacteria invade her body, infecting the wound. Fortunately, chameleon plants were one thing we had an abundance of. No matter how many I picked, they seemed to grow right back. So plants like to grow in marshy, damp spots. All I had to do was look for places sheltered from the sun. Especially after a rainy day like yesterday, there would be large quantities waiting. The rain brought a number of other blessings, apart from chameleon plants. In particular, a large number of snails had appeared in the forest. Mushrooms had also sprouted up, but I wasn't about to thoughtlessly start grabbing at them. Kazuki had severely beaten it into my head that a moment's overconfidence or trivial act of carelessness could prove fatal. Opening the lid of our rice cooker, I began picking a moderate number of chameleon leaves, careful not to take too many from any one plant. While I was at it, I grabbed a few snails as they crawled slowly across nearby tree branches. Every time I tossed a snail into the makeshift bucket, its shell hit the bottom of the aluminum cooker with a sharp little rattle. Hearing that sound drove home the realization that I had been reduced to viewing slugs as food, and a surge of self-pity abruptly welled up inside me. Feeling the corners of my eyes grow hot, sniffled in a futile attempt to hold my misery inside. Crying wasn't going to help anything. I knew that all too well, but the tears still came. Don't think too much. As long as I stay alive, I'll be rescued. As long as I don't give up, I'll get home. Empty words, but I forced myself to believe them. It was the only thing that kept my hands moving. It was the only way I could see going on as anything but ridiculous. I plucked a few dozen leaves from a chameleon plants and captured 2 snails. Unpleasant surprise pulled me back to reality. Glancing down, I noticed with a start that my sock was stained dark red. A leech had latched onto the calf of my left leg, hung suspended from my skin, round and fat with my blood. It seems snails weren't the only slimy invertebrates that had multiplied in the wake of the torrential rain. Normally I would have shrieked at the sight of the vile little creature, probably collapsed to my knees, weeping hysterically. Instead, I grabbed the leech firmly, peeled it off my leg, tossed it into the trees with a detached mechanical calm that surprised myself. Removing the teeth still stuck in my leg, carefully squeezed at the wound to wring out the leech's poison. Apparently it's called Huraden. I mean, snails are food, guys, in this situation. But now that I looked, there was a numb bleeding bite on my right leg as well. Leech had apparently already drank its fill, as it was nowhere to be found. For some reason, the collar of my uniform felt oddly tingly against my skin. My heart thudded with cold dread. I slowly, tentatively brought my hand toward the back of my neck. Fingers brushed against a fat, slimy body, and this time I screamed. Ripping the leash off my neck, I hurled it hard against the ground and rained a furious kicks down on it, but the thing just didn't want to die. As I ground the writhing leech into the mud with my heel, my own blood gushed out in spurts from the smashed body. I was seized by such an intense, dizzying spasm of sheer loathing that I thought I might pass out on the spot. Couldn't take this anymore, I just couldn't. Lukewarm blood trickled endlessly down my back, and down the back of my neck. I pressed my hand against the wound, but it just wouldn't stop. This trip was over. As I decided to head back, I casually glanced up at the sound of a slight rustling from above. In the next instant, a number of leeches came raining down from overlapping tree branches overhead, aiming for me. Clutching the mess kit tightly to my chest, I ran stumbling out of the forest as fast as my legs would carry me. Listen very carefully, city dwellers. I'm willing to bet some of y'all have been known to say things like, I love nature, being out in the green heals my soul, or whatever. Yes? Well, if you ever find yourself in need of a broken nose, try repeating it when I'm in the room. Those tidy little trails you hike down with their trimmed trees and color-coded maps and porta potties and rest stations, that's an artificial playground for human beings. In that moment, watching the unceasing trickle of blood seeping into my uniform, came to hate nature from the bottom of my heart.
いい加減にしなさい。こんな食事でも食べられない子もいるのよ。
When I returned with the mess kit covered in my own blood, I heard a snarling voice inside the large tent. Captain Sakashita's here. I hesitated for a moment at the entrance. Looking around, I saw the rest of the girls in the area were similarly frozen in awkward uncertainty, looking deliberately away from the tent but clearly listening. Couldn't just do nothing. Maybe just nonchalantly popping in there would drain some of the tension from the air. Heaving a single heavy sigh, I braced myself emotionally, then stooped down and passed through the open tent flap. Might have called it a large tent, but it wasn't exactly spacious as hospitals go. I crawled inside. The scent of closely packed sedentary bodies was as thick as always. And today the droning of flies filled the air. This is a more recent development. Apparently a smell of blood and pus had grown strong enough to prove an irresistible attraction. No matter how many flies we drove off or swatted, there were always more to take their place. The interior was unevenly illuminated by sunshine flowing through in gaps in the tree canopy. I could see Hiroka-san and Sakurai lying at opposite ends of the tent, attended at their bedside by Captain Sakashita and Katsuki respectively.
ほら、食べなさい。食べるのよ。それがあなたの義務。いいえ、これは命令よ。食べなさい。
Captain Sakashita scooped some gruel out of the Sierra cup in her hand, pushed a spoon forward, but Hiroko-san bit her lower lip and turned her face aside, rejecting food outright.
食べたくないんです。そんなはずはないでしょ。まずいから食べたくないなんて、わがままが許される状況じゃないのは説明したはずです。食べなさい。
I myself had nursed Hiroko-san numerous times over the last week. She never accepted much in the way of food, but the last few days in particular she hadn't eaten anything remotely approaching a meal. With both legs broken, she was almost entirely unable to move. Spending all day lying down would probably tend to reduce your appetite. And when you happen to be lying down in a confined space reeking of pus and dirt and sweat, hunger pangs might as well be less of a problem than containing your nausea. The high fever from her fractures lasted 3 days, during which we were forced to keep her on a purely liquid diet. Even after her temperature fell, the most she could keep down was a light rice gruel with practically no added ingredients. Even that watery broth she sipped very slowly in small quantities.
お願いします。もう許してください。
Oh. Oh no. Oh no! Hiroko-san grated out the words through gritted teeth, her contorted expression begging for a reprieve. As she squeezed her eyes shut, small tears spilled from the corners of her eyes.
許してって何よ。人聞きの悪いことを言わないで。まるで私があなたをいじめているようじゃない。
Captain jerked back the spoon and noisily slammed his aluminum cup to the floor in obvious irritation. The porridge inside was surprisingly thick with rice. Unlike our typical watered-down weed soup, it was legitimate gruel. Compared to the relatively healthy members of the group, the wounded need more nourishment to help their bodies heal. They must have been receiving preferential rations. At a quick glance, there seemed to be as much rice in that one bowl as received in a single day.
むしろあなたは感謝するべき立場なのよ。それがどうしてそんな口の利き方ができるというの？
Why do you think we're giving special treatment to invalids who can't even work? But before the next angry words in this sequence could spill out of Captain Sakashi's mouth, Katsuki, who had been silently cleaning Sakurai's stomach wound the whole time, finally interjected.
人が嫌がっていることを無理強いするのがいじめ以外の何だと言うんです？
Captain Sakashita turned to face Katsuki's back, glaring so fiercely I half expected her to pop a blood vessel.
今の私たちにとってこの一握りのお米がどれだけ貴重かあなたにだって分かっているでしょ？
ええ、もちろん。でも、あなたは間違っています。
Katsuki noticed the captain's furious glare. She gave no sign of it. Not even bothering to turn around, she continued treating Sakurai as she spoke.
こんな状況だからこそ、力強くも絶対的な存在として甘い顔はできないと考えたのかもしれませんが、弱者を相手にいい人ごっこをしている姿を主張したいのなら、少しは他者を思いやる姿勢を見せてはいかがですか？
それはあなたのようにずる賢くやってみせろと？
そう、私のようにずる賢くです。おつむが弱い分、どうしても力押しに頼るのはあなたの悪い癖です。
Oh god, oh god. Stop it, Katsuki. The tent was unpleasantly humid enough to begin with. I really could have done without the nasty cold sweat now drenching my back.
ここはもう結構ですから、ご自分のテントにお戻りになられてはいかがです？
あなたには後でお話があります。私のテントまで来ていただける？
まあ怖い。とても一人では訪ねる勇気がないので、Amaneを同行させても？
構わないわ。
As she spat out those words, Captain Sakashi's dark, angry eyes flashed over to settle on me. Don't get me mixed up in this. Do not get me mixed up in this, Kazuki. Don't do it! Pierced by the captain's loathing glare, I stiffened in the entrance of the tent like a rock, managing to respond only with a terrified gulp. Maybe she realized how awkward I felt about the whole thing. Maybe not. Either way, Captain Sakashita gave a little snort and pushed right past me and out of the tent.
Kazuki.
Nani? 情けない声を出さないでちょうだい。それより薬草はどうしたの？
積んできたけど。
Quickly opened the mess kit I've been carrying. At some point, the snails I captured had glued themselves to the opposite side of the lid.
ありがとう。
Kazuki grabbed a number of chameleon plant leaves from the aluminum cooker, crumpled them in her hand, deftly began to apply them to the area around Sakurai's wound.
少し染みますか？
少しだけ。でもかゆいよりは痛い方がまだいいわ。いつもありがとう。
Guys, you have to understand that having or thinking you're responsible for the lives of like these surviving members of a bus that fell off a cliff that you can't get out of and you can't escape the situation of, it's very, very stressful, especially for like, you know, like what sounds like a private prep school basically that they're all attending in some way, shape, or form.
薬草を積んできたのはAmaneです。
スオさん、ありがとう。
Like, when it comes to leadership in a situation like that, it's tough. I mean, and Kazuki is exerting a ton of patience to try to keep the order because she doesn't want to cause dissension to run throughout the ranks of the remaining or surviving members. Like, if it was me in that situation, I would have usurped the authority so quickly if I felt that the leadership was incompetent or incapable. And the fact that Kazuki rolls with it, that's a lot. And it's a lot of pressure. But yeah, it's a lot of pressure that you're asking the leadership to like step up their game. So, you know, it's tough. This captain is not there. Kazuki probably should have taken that reign and probably should have dealt swiftly with the rest of like everything. But Kazuki is not that type of person. She's like a much more complete character and a much nicer human being than that to do so. So, you know, it's kind of what it is, man. Hey, how's it going, Casserole?
いえ、どういたしまして。
This is tough, man. This is very stressful. Like, I'm sitting there going, oh man, if it was me, I would have done this already. But, you know, I'm not them. Sakurai Senpai was as placid and soft-spoken as always. Even in the fairly tomboyish basketball team, she'd been generally admired as the greatest beauty in the group. I didn't know the exact details, but apparently her father was a famous stage actor and her mother a former idol singer. Born to two such people, it was perhaps unsurprising that she turned out as lovely as she did. Against such a contrast, the ugly, jagged wound across her abdomen and its crude stitches were all the more painful to look at.
はい、終わりましたよ。テントの外に出て日に当たってください。
お世話になりました。
No one has died yet, other than the ones that already did casserole. The presence of the wound must still have been a source of unease, if not discomfort to her. Sakurai slowly rose from the ground. Her hand softly traced the gash from above the freshly applied bandages. With a brief polite bow to Kazuki, she quietly crawled out of the tent.
こんな状況でも美人なんだね、桜井先輩。
そのこと、あまり本人の前では言わない方がいいわね。彼女、演技も下手だし、歌も苦手で、自分には容姿以外の取り柄がないって思っているみたいだから。褒めたつもりでも結果的に彼女を追い詰めることになりかねないわ。
そうなんだ。
Things that Kazuki picks up, guys. In that case, the ugly wound to her stomach must have been a considerable psychological shock. Turned around to peer out the open flap of the tent as Sakurai slowly walked off into the distance. Her shoulders seemed to be sagging.
金田さんのように顔の怪我じゃなかっただけ幸運だと思わなければね。
To be sure, that would have been even harder on her. Kaneda herself didn't seem particularly depressed. Maybe she was just counting herself lucky to have survived. I suppose she might just have been the sort not to sweat the small stuff. She didn't whine about the gash on her head, but by the same token, she wouldn't come to have the wound treated unless we call for her.
今はそんなことより、広岡さん。なかなか気がついてあげられなくてごめんなさい。
何のことですか？
あなたが食事を取りたがらない理由よ。
As she spoke, Katsuki reached out for the zipper of Hiroko-san's tightly closed sleeping bag.
待って、お願い、いや。
恥ずかしいのはわかるけど、このままにはしておけないでしょ。
Katsuki's voice was far more gentle than I had ever heard it before. Nonetheless, Hiroko-san broke into painful, bitter sobs like a child begging for forgiveness. She turned her head to the side, her gaze coming to rest on me. There were fat teardrops rolling down her cheeks.
Amane, 悪いけど、お湯を沸かしてきてくれる？
どれぐらい？
バケツ一杯分。急がないでいいわ。お願い。
わかった。
As I turned to leave, a sharp new smell cut through the stuffy air of the tent, and I finally understood the situation. Hiroko-san soiled herself. Right, at the moment she couldn't even stand up on her own power. With a little maneuvering, she'd probably be able to handle number 1 by herself, but number 2 would absolutely require external assistance. Hiroko-san had always been the most timid and introverted member of our team, but under the best of her circumstances, she found it difficult to assert herself. She must simply have been too humiliated to ask for the help she needed. In other words, she'd been refusing food for the last few days out of sheer terror at producing waste. It all fell horribly into place in an instant. Her body racked with sobs, Hiroko-san buried her face into her hands. Katsuki spoke to her again, her voice like a comforting caress.
気にすることはないわ。生きていれば当たり前のことなのだから。
Slightly unsettled by Katsuki's uncharacteristic kindness, I hastily left the tent.
なんだよ、和樹のやつ。私にはあんな優しい顔絶対しないくせにさ。
That's because Katsuki got a little more forceful on you, Amane. All of a sudden, there was a complex and intense mixture of feelings. Unease, irritation, anxiety, and others I couldn't quite put into words. Swirling unpleasantly around in my chest. Hey, like a jealous dog.
そんなに広岡が可愛いなら、あいつと付き合えばいいじゃんかよ。
Hold on a second here, self. What did you just say? I mean, what? You almost think I was jealous here or something. Well, now that I think about it, maybe I really am a little jealous. But Katsuki and I are both girls, so no, what exactly is going on here? Sometimes pet dogs get all cranky when they see their master doting on somebody else's mutt. Maybe there's something similar. I knew it was downright weird for me to be feeling this way, but the irritation was real, and it wasn't going away. Maybe I should just throw my dignity to the wind and give her a nasty bite the next time she tries to give me a treat.
あなた今変なこと考えているでしょう。
Yep, she is.
和樹、何のこと？
私はあなたを一番信頼しているし、あなたに一番頼っているのは事実よ。私がどこへ行こうと、結局最後にはあなたのところへ帰ってくるのだから、あなたはどっしりと構えて待っていればいいのよ。
何言ってるの？
Come on, man, you know what?
わからない？私にはあなたが必要だって、そう言っているのよ。あまね、こっちにいらっしゃい。
なんで？
首のところ血が出てるわ。
これはヒルに噛まれて痛くないから平気だよ。
血が止まっていないじゃない。そのままにしておけば何時間も止まらないわよ。いいからいらっしゃい。
Katsuki reached her small arms up, drawing my head down toward her, then pressed her lips against the scruff of my neck. After a brief running her tongue around the area of the leech bite, she began to suck on the wound. I mean, you're not supposed to suck poison out like that, but whatever.
全部吸い出してあげるわ。
What the hell is this? Why does it have to be so pointlessly erotic? Kazuki's lips, they're small and soft and kind of feel nice. This isn't good. Now I'm getting in a weird mood. She sucked the blood and anti-collagen out of my neck until her mouth was full, spat it out, then came right back for more. I understood she was performing medical treatment. Every time Kazuki's lips touched me, my body quivered. Every time she exhaled through her nose, her breath tickled my cheek, and strange little noises leaked out of my mouth. Decent DSL. In a daze, my eyes half closed, I whimpered nasally. It took a good minute for me to notice that Sakuma-senpai was standing nearby, her arms folded, taking in the whole scene with a smile. Yeah, it was pretty good, I would say so. You know what I say? No, you know, I have a roommate, and I'd totally do that with.
やれやれ、随分と大胆だね、君たちも。
違いますよ。これはそういうんじゃなくて、そう、ヒルです。私森でヒルに噛まれて、それでこれは血が止まらないから、そのカズキが。
何？別に責めているわけじゃないよ。愛情には様々な形があってしかりだと私は思っているしね。
Winky face。
だからこれは別に愛情とかそういうことじゃなくて治療ですよ。
Kazuki to say something, right?
治療だって愛情だろ？君、誰に何の言い訳をしているんだい？
Probably herself.
アマネをいじめると楽しいのは理解できますけど、それはペアである私の特権です。あまりアマネをからかわないでください、佐久間先輩。
Oh man, they're both teasing her.
横暴だな。アマネはみんなのアマネだよ。
そう思うのは勝手ですけどね。それで私のアマネに何かご用でも？
Oh, she say my Amane and stuff.
意外と独占欲が強いな、君。まあいいさ。トイレを作るんだろ？さっき部長が来て、手が空いているものがいたらアマネを手伝えって言われてきたんだよ。
助かります。
But the leeches, well, you know, they have some poison to them, like how they inject themselves and stuff.
いいさ。
Depends on the
どうせ
leech.
暇だしね。することがないと落ち込むばかりだ。これは私だけかもしれないけど、体を動かしている方が苦痛を感じないし、何もしないでいる方が疲れるんだよ。
Comedy gold, right?
というわけで、アマネを借りていくよ。悪いね、風見。
わかりました。くれぐれも大切に扱ってくださいね。
カズキ？
いいんだよ。いつもそばにいる便利な女だと思われていると苦労ばかりが増えるよ。たまには距離を置くのも悪くはないさ。ほら、行くよ。
はい。
Amane is like, but she's my master. It's all about that good suck. The last few days, both Captain Sakashida and Mr. Ochi had been absent from the camp more often than not. They were supposedly investigating the forest, but we hadn't gotten much specific information about what was involved. With our teacher, the team's official figurehead, and the captain, its true leader, both absent, the majority of the group looked to Kazumi and Kazuki for orders. To be perfectly honest, there were a considerable number of people who openly scowled at the idea of accepting instructions from an arrogant, sharp-tongued freshman. But by nature, people turn to competence over formal authority in times of crisis. It was simply a fact that our efficiency as a group increased when command of the camp passed from Captain Sakashi to Katsuki. She carefully assessed everyone's personality and skills and assigned them appropriate jobs, placing a moderate responsibility on every individual's shoulders. Through a consistent distribution of tasks, we had all naturally become aware of our roles, quickly learning to bring certain tasks to certain people without her direct intervention. She created a framework that enabled us to be productive. Yeah. This toilet construction operation was a good example. Katsuki didn't stand on the sidelines directing us, but our initial planning divided us into our teams. One group dug the hole, one group repurposed a chair from the bus into a seat, one group focused on creating a sturdy roof that wouldn't leak in the heavy rain. And she designed a clear procedure for the job, with logical, easy-to-remember steps, carefully tuned to compensate for our small number of workers. By following her instructions, we managed to finish the job rather quickly. The completed toilet wasn't much to look at, granted. In fact, it was unmistakably a ramshackle hut slapped together by novice carpenters, but it was functional enough. Of particular note was our makeshift septic tank, filled with gasoline extracted from the bus. As an effective countermeasure against flies, maggots, and other pests, it helped erase our concerns about creating a hub for transmitting disease. If Kazuki hadn't been there, doubt we could have come up with that idea, much less implemented it. Given such clear displays of competence, even those who dislike Kazuki on a personal level were growing increasingly reliant on her leadership, although in some cases only grudgingly and out of necessity. As the sun declined in the west and the fierce heat and humidity finally began to die down, I set about making weed soup using our meager allocation of rice and the vegetables we've been able to gather in the forest. Today the job was far larger than it had been at first. For quite some time, every pair had carefully prepared supper for themselves, probably out of paranoia about the possibility of having some of their food snatched secretly away. For the last few days, I'd increasingly been assuming the role of the camp cook. I went along with the new responsibility easily enough, since I'd been preparing meals for the wounded Hiroka and Sakurai all along. Increasing the quantity to feed more of a group wasn't really much of a hassle. Guess everyone finally figured out, might as well just leave the cooking to the girl who grew up in a restaurant, or something. Probably another effect of Kazuki's emphasis on efficiency dividing our workload. Yeah, and that's the problem, the blood flow. Yeah, you don't want to be bleeding that long. They struck a fire under the primitive cooking furnace we constructed from moderately sized stones. The various pairs brought forward their mess kits, offering up all the ingredients they had on hand. Apart from the small quantities of rice and vegetables distributed at the beginning of the day, each aluminum rice cooker had a range of unidentifiable weeds and wild grasses picked from the forest. Today there were quite a number of snails as well. Surprisingly, Komori had gathered most of the small, slimy creatures, an above-average quantity, although extremely random assortment, of vegetation to boot. She'd taken her pet dog into the forest and walked a good ways in, gathering anything that seemed even vaguely edible, then found her way back to the camp without a hitch. Apparently, the dog had memorized the way back by its scent. For that first success, Komori had made a daily habit of approaching Kazuki with random plants that caught her eye on such trips, asking which might be edible. When night came, our short-sleeved uniforms were, as always, inadequate protection against chill air. We finished our dinner at Kazuki, and I set off for the large tent and half-forced Hiroka to eat. With that finished, we finally made our way to Captain Sakashi's tent, as we promised earlier in the day. No, the cicadas will never stop. She was waiting for us with Koide-senpai inside their tent, where a small candle provided some dim, flickering illumination.
Konbanwa.
Katsuki offered a polite greeting, her tone of voice suggesting she just arrived fashionably late to a high society gathering. Captain Sakashi responded with a curt, "There you are," then glanced at Koide and gave a little jerk of her head, prompting her partner to leave the tent.
どうぞ、入って。
Finding us to sit with a sardonic, "Sorry, I can't offer you any tea," Captain Sakashita got right down to the business before we even settled ourselves on the ground.
怪我人の様子は？
悪化はしていませんが、順調に回復しているとは言えません。
そう。
Someone went to smash or pass in the chat? For one thing, Hiroka-san's broken legs wouldn't have fixed themselves in a few days, even under ideal circumstances. Sakurai-senpai's abdominal wound was healing very slowly, thanks to her worsening state of malnutrition and the absence of antibiotics to fight her infection. As an added misery, the intense heat and humidity had left her with a painful skin condition. Even the comparatively lightly wounded Kaneda's health needs to be monitored closely, given the poor sanitary conditions of the camp. Now, we'll at least get to the end of the day, guys. For the last few humid days, she's been complaining about her wound's constant itchiness. We warned her repeatedly not to scratch, but she had nonetheless picked up a troublesome habit of sticking twigs under her bandages and tearing at her stitches. And apart from those who'd been wounded in the crash, many of the healthy girls were beginning to show increasingly advanced symptoms of malnutrition. Faces were swelling noticeably as their vitamin deficiencies grew more pronounced. Some girls had begun to complain of minor ailments. To be honest, we were past the point of monitoring the situation closely. It was slowly but surely crumbling before our eyes. Captain Sakashita listened to the summary from start to finish in silence. When it was over, she again answered with a brief, "I see." After a moment, she leaned forward to look into Katsuki's face and spoke, and for a moment I disbelieved my ears.
つまり、彼女たち怪我人は無駄飯ぐらいというわけね。
それは。
With a start, I realized why Captain Sakashita had driven Koide from the tent. Whatever the circumstances, she was our leader, and in speaking those words, she had just betrayed that responsibility. Maybe we'd all thought the same, in some dark corner of our mind, but no one had voiced that ugly thought, and now the captain had coolly thrown it out into the open. She understood as well as we did that a quiet, crippling pessimism regarding the food situation had begun to spread among the group. If we were to continue on these meager rations, the currently able-bodied girls would eventually be reduced to invalids. Without adequate nourishment, our physical strength would be drained, sapping us of the energy to work. And with our bodies weakened, disease would spread all too easily around the camp. Simply by existing, the wounded were acting as a heavy drain on our precious supply of food. Their presence was reducing everyone else's rations. Ultimately, this might soon give rise to more sick people, exponentially worsening the problem. When we weigh the lives of the wounded and the healthy against each other, the former will always be lighter on the scales. In this harsh environment, that pragmatic calculation felt all the more obvious. We don't have the elbow room to be handing out rations to those who can't work. The captain's argument was coherent enough, and I understood that she had little choice but to approach our situation with conservative caution. But nonetheless, her words sounded like a betrayal, a justification for unburdening ourselves of a load that had grown troublesome to carry, an excuse to abandon our friends and save ourselves.
私にずる賢く生きろと言ったのは風見さん、あなたよ。
ええ、確かに。でも、ずる賢く生きるのと弱者を吊るし上げて憂を晴らすのとでは意味が全然違います。
Yeah, well.
だったらあなたはその弱者の口をまかない切るだけの食料を持ち合わせているの？
いいえ、残念ながら。
口だけの綺麗事ならいくらでも言えます。あなたのいい人ごっこに付き合わされて日々体力を落とす部員たちの迷惑を少しは考えてみては。
Those spiteful words were all too clearly a deliberate act of revenge for Kazuki's insults this afternoon. Whether she was at a loss for words or simply too exasperated to speak wasn't clear. Kazuki offered no reply other than a short, tired little sigh. I long before decided to keep my silence and leave this conversation entirely to Kazuki, but all of a sudden I found myself unable to suppress the need to object.
それはあんまりですよ。怪我人は餓死するまで見殺しなんですか？
そうは言っていないでしょ。
I mean, if we're going where I'm going, food. For the first time in the conversation, the captain turned to me. She'd grown gaunt in recent days, leaving her cheekbones so prominent that her eyes seemed to have sunken in her face. Made her grim gaze seemed all the more severe.
配給の優先度を下げると言っただけで、一切の食事を与えないわけではないわ。
Okay. So not going where I would have gone and be like, well, we might have to consider cannibalism. Or at least killing them, mercy killing them.
もちろん今後も適度な量を配給します。どうせ動けないのだから、お腹もあまり減らないのでしょ。
それは違います。
There was another reason Hiroka-san had refused to eat that afternoon. The construction of the toilet, that problem had been eliminated. We could simply help her to the toilet seat and let her relieve herself in privacy, removing the biggest psychological roadblock to her recovery.
いいのよ、アマネ。部長の言い分も決して間違いではないのよ。
I hope this is also in tandem with the idea of sending out a scout to actually find, help. A captain also probably make good food too.
広岡さんには私の分の配給を分配します。それなら文句はないでしょ。
なぜ私に確認するのかしら。あなたの食料なのだから、あなたが勝手にすればいいわ。
ではそうします。
Katsuki leaned forward in a very slight bow as she stood, lightly speaking the words, "Let's return in my general direction." She abruptly left the tent.
待ってよ、カズキ。
はい、何？
Well, you can cook. You can cook meat, is what I'm saying. It's not a good suggestion because, first of all, as a person who's never cannibalized another human being, I would also personally not know where to start, because there's plenty of scientific evidence showing that, yeah, cannibalism is usually bad. Very bad. So, I'm saying, you know.
何じゃないよ。どうして何も言い返さないの？
言うだけ無駄だと思ったからよ。
Yep, that was a sigh of exasperation. Yeah, I know, cooking doesn't sterilize everything, it's true.
私はカズキのことだから絶対に食ってかかると思っていたし、いつもみたいに文句の一つも言って強引に丸め込めばよかったのに。
No, you can't talk past her.
あなた何を言っているの？文句というのは相手の言動や態度が間違っていたり正しかったとしても気に入らない時につけるものよ。それ以外の時に口にする言葉のことは難癖というの。覚えておきなさい。
なんだよそれ。全然納得できないよ、カズキ。
言ったでしょ。部長の言っていることも間違いではないのよ。
だからって怪我人の食事を減らすなんて間違ってるよ。
だから私の食事を分けてあげるんじゃない。ノープロブレム。
全然ノープロブレムじゃないよ。忘れてるかもしれないけど、カズキだって怪我人なんだよ。
Oh yeah, that's right. Katsuki is injured. How come we could never notice even though she was in sling the entire time? Very, very important, guys. If you did not realize Katsuki's injured, she is.
分かってるって。
何をどう分かってるっていうのさ。やっぱり今からでも部長に言って考え直してもらおうよ。こんなの間違ってるってカズキが文句を言えば絶対なんとかなるし、言うだけ言ってみようよ。
いやあね、あなたの口ぶりではまるで私が何にでも噛みつくどこかのヒステリー女みたいじゃない。私だって世の中すべての間違いに文句をつけるわけではないのよ。
そうかな。
Personally, I kind of had this image of Katsuki waving a battle flag and blazing with the words, "We must correct the world," on some vague battleship. Then charging forth at the head of the vanguard, all Jeanne d'Arc style, leading a glorious crusade across the mistake-riddled modern age.
私ほど間違いに寛大な女はいないわよ。考えてもごらんなさいな。私が坂下部長に、あなたなぜ生まれてきたのと質問しているところを見たことがある？
What?
ないけど。ちょっと待って。今なんかさらっとものすごいこと言わなかった？
That kind of sounded like an indirect way of implying that girl should never have been born to me.
慈悲深くも寛大な私の資料を理解できたのなら、さっさとテントに戻りましょう。そろそろ眠くなってきたわ。
Oh, snap.
カズキってさ、そういうとこマイペースだよね。
It was already past 9 p.m. I looked up through the trees to the sky, empty except for the bright moon and twinkling stars. The helicopter we'd seen for a few brief moments on the second day had been absent ever since. I strained my ears, but heard only the chirping of bugs. No cars running on the road above, nothing. Why hasn't anybody noticed? There's a group of girls right down here, suffering so much. I was seized by the meaningless desire to scream for help at the moon. I knew I'd only be making my throat hoarse. That early summer night, only the lonesome voices of the insects echoed through the rocky valley. Oh, snap. 8th day. So we have gone past a weak point. As in like W-E-E-K. Week as in like for a week. Gel call, 8th day. So, I think this is a good place to call it. Obviously, we have reached a point where things are gonna start getting worse. Ibuki is showing some signs of it. Clearly, the decision to feed the injured less has happened by the captain, who I'm sure is going over very well in the popularity polls right now as we speak in this live stream. But for now, it's animefanrk2k. Thank you very much for showing up for tonight's Monday Night Livestream. I was very happy to be here for it. And if you guys watch my live streams, I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Twitch for Celeste. Twitch Tuesdays with tacos. Or maybe Thursday for Mega Mention Neptune V2R, which I will also be streaming on a weekly basis starting on this Thursday. So anyway, for now, I'll see you guys. And thanks for watching. Peace. Night.